live on YouTube. And Robert, Cherie, this mic is all yours.
Good morning. Bob has gone crazy again, and so this morning is going to be kind of an interesting little change from what has normally happened. Before we get too far, though, if anyone is interested in the meeting that we attended Saturday with Gary Renard, Bob has put a note on the chat that people can download and look at later if they want. So to get started, good morning, beautiful minds, miracle workers, sleepy seekers, and anyone pretending they know what day it is. Yes, it's still morning here, which means somewhere else, half your day is already gone, and you're doing just fine anyway. This is ACIM Gather, broadcasting live from the intersection of coffee, confusion, and clarity you did not ask for, but somehow showed up for anyway. And now settle in. This is the segment known as Robert's Ramblings. Yes, that Robert. And yes, he rambles endlessly. He doesn't speak, he writes, which somehow makes the rambling even more terrifying. We've tried editing, we've tried trimming, we've tried saying maybe just one more paragraph. It never works. There is no off switch. Lynn is here, nervously smiling, not knowing where this is headed. And other people aren't here at today's session, but normally are later. Mickey's listening closely, waiting for loud quacking. Glorian's nodding because somehow this all makes perfect sense. Rico's checking to see if this is still the same topic. Rafi's leaning in, ready to laugh at whatever gets triggered. And Cherie is wondering why she ever said yes. And then there's everyone else. The ones reading along, looking for the escape hatch from the insane world, only to discover the door doesn't lead out, it leads in. This is not a lecture. This is not a performance. This is what happens when honest reflection refuses to stay on topic. So loosen your grip on yesterday, put tomorrow on mute, and let the words do what they do best. Circle the truth, trip over it, laugh when you recognize yourself. This is Robert's Ramblings. You can't shut him up, but you might hear something that changes your day. Take a breath. You're exactly on time. So much for Monday morning craziness. Somehow we are here to be truly helpful. Who would like to pick an essay to hear and discuss from the list on the screen? The items in yellow were pre-picked from last week. Or do you have other choices? Does anyone want to pick something?
The odd thing today is that the only person that's here other than Lynn and myself is Linda Joy. And I don't want to put a big burden on Linda Joy. So, Lynn, I'm going to kind of leave it to you to decide what you want to do today. This does not seem like a good time window. And if you want to change this to a different time when people are still around, that's great. But it seems kind of silly to just read a bunch of essays for one person. Lynn, I welcome your thoughts, and Linda Joy, I also welcome yours. So what do you guys want to do?
Well, as long as we're alone here and my voice holds out, I'd like to thank you. I figured out how to buy your books in Amazon, And I bought your last three, that set of books, and I'm looking forward to reading them.
Are you talking about the novels, Linda?
The typewriter, I don't know. There were three.
Yeah,
There were
yeah,
three.
the
There were three or
trilogy,
four.
yeah. Well,
I'm
thank
sorry?
you. But keep in mind, for people here at ACIM gather, I give away copies. So if you find something you want to read, just send me an email. I'll send you a free copy.
Well, I don't mind donating to you either, Bob. It and I have not gotten into reading them yet. So, but
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, thank you. Well, anyway, if you want to pick an essay, and we'll do it. I'll be happy to do essays just for you. I don't care.
Okay, let me look for just a minute here.
Sure, take your time. Lynn, was that introduction crazy enough?
It was great.
I'm trying to get somebody to record it that sounds like Robin Williams. You know, it's Good Morning Vietnam.
He is crazy.
You can AI that.
No, they won't. I tried. He said, no way I will try to do that for you. But I have a narrator that I use for my audio books, a guy in Michigan. And I asked him if he could find somebody that is really good at mimicking Robin, because I would love to put that out there just as a soundbite. While Joy is looking, you want to talk a little bit about Saturday?
Okay. Well, it was a little disappointing when we got there and they announced that Gary was not feeling well and that they would delay doing anything for a bit. And they did have his sister-in-law, Jackie, come in and speak and then take questions and so on, which was good. And then they finally took a long break for lunch. And after that, Gary did come in and join the group for a couple of hours, but he was very exhausted and very, very pale. And I had not met him before, so I didn't know what to expect. But Bob said that he looked a lot older than his 73 years. But it was good to listen and for people to ask questions. And I'm glad that we had a chance to attend, but it was disappointing that he was not in better health than he was on Saturday.
Linda, you got one picked out yet?
Sorry, I was muted. On the road again?
On the road again? Okay, let me see if I can find it.
I'm not sure why, but it's toward the bottom of the second
Oh,
row.
there it is. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, this was fun. I had fun writing this one. It's a little, let me give you fair warning. It's a little bit colorful.
Okay.
And let me make it bigger so you can read it. And if you get tired, I know Cherie will be glad to take over.
Okay. On the road again with bathroom breaks. Okay. With gratitude to Willie Nelson and what I'm learning from A Course in Miracles. Willie Nelson's On the Road Again. Okay, I know the song. Written by Willie and long carried by his voice, has always been more than a travel song. It is a meditation on movement, purpose, and the quiet satisfaction of continuing, not racing, not conquering, simply going on. Few songs age as gracefully as this one, perhaps because it was never really about youth in the first place. As the years pass, familiar words tend to shift. Aging has a way of rewriting the soundtrack of our lives. Somewhere along the road, the opening line of that song began to morph in my own head into something far less poetic and far more honest. Gotta pee again? Getting old. I gotta pee again. What began as a throwaway joke slowly revealed itself as a small truth wrapped in laughter. There is no disrespect in that humor. If anything, it is a nod of gratitude. Laughter is often the most dignified response to decline. The body changes its rules. It interrupts our plans. It demands more attention than it once did. But none of that signals the end of the journey. It simply adds more pauses. Those pauses matter. They slow us down enough to notice what speed once hid. We become less interested in proving anything and more interested in being present. The road remains the same, but our relationship to it softens. We stop measuring progress by distance covered and begin measuring it by awareness gained. That spirit led me to imagine a companion lyric, not a parody and certainly not a replacement, but a quiet echo, a version sung with creaky knees, deeper gratitude, and a sense of humor, earned rather than borrowed. It is offered with deep respect to Willie and to the song that has traveled with so many of us for so long. Below is that imagined lyric, shared in full, as an affectionate homage to staying in motion while learning how to slow down. Still rolling along. With gratitude to Willie Nelson and the spirit of On the Road Again. Now, I'm not going to sing, but I will read the words. Woke up stiff before the sun. Knees complain before I run. Coffee's on, but not too strong. Still rolling along. Mirror shows a stranger now. Silver truth. Silver truth above my brow. Lines that time has slowly drawn, still rolling along. I'm still rolling along, but I gotta pee again. Getting old, yeah, I gotta pee again. Life's still sweet, even when it's wrong. I'm still rolling along. Lost a step, but found my sight. Care less who's wrong or who's right. Let some old ambitions go. Make room for what I know. Friends are fewer. Love runs deep. Promises I actually keep. I don't chase what I once chased on. Still rolling along. I'm still rolling along, but I gotta pee again. Getting old, yeah, I gotta pee again. Laugh it off. Sing the same old song. I'm still rolling along. The bridge. Body creaks like an old screen door. Mind drifts places it didn't before. But there's a place I never knew. Back when I thought youth was the truth. I see beauty in slowing down, in familiar roads and small town sounds. Turns out time wasn't something to beat. It was something to meet. I'm still rolling along. Yeah, I gotta pee again. Not ashamed, just human in the end. If the road gets narrow, I'll take it strong, still rolling along. I stop more often, that much is true, but I'm grateful now for the view. If the journey's long, it's been worth the song, still rolling along.
Thank you, Linda.
Oh, that was beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah, I gotta admit, I didn't write that myself. I had a lot of help from AI on that one, but it really speaks to what it was. I mean, if we can't laugh at ourselves in this condition, we're just making ourselves crazier. Um, Lynn, is there something on that list that you would like to see?
I'm looking. Let's see. Let's look at does God expect worship? It's over on the right
Okay.
column
Yep,
toward the,
got it.
pardon me?
I was saying I got it. I found it.
Okay.
Let me make it bigger. Oops, not enough.
Oh, that's better. All right. All right. Does God expect worship? What God truly asks. Many of us were raised with the idea that God expects worship. We were taught to praise, to kneel, to offer reverence as proof of devotion. Worship became a duty, sometimes loving, sometimes fearful, often habitual. Beneath it all lived an unspoken assumption that God needs something from us. Our prayers, our praise, our obedience were believed to matter not only to us, but to God. A Course in Miracles quietly challenges this assumption at its core. It does not argue against worship directly. It simply renders the idea unnecessary. The God presented in the Course lacks nothing, requires nothing, and asks for nothing in the way religion has traditionally taught. This shift is subtle, but its implications are profound. If God does not require worship, then what, if anything, does God ask of us? The problem with worship as obligation. Worship, as it is commonly understood, implies hierarchy. One bows, one pleases, one hopes to be seen favorably. Even when worship is sincere, it often carries the undertone of earning approval or avoiding punishment. It suggests that God gains something from our reverence. You can move it all the way up. Okay, there we go. The Course does not support this image. A God who needs praise would be incomplete. A God who requires acknowledgement would depend on creation for fulfillment. That is not the God of the Course. Love, as described in A Course of Miracles, is whole, unlimited, and incapable of lack. What is complete cannot demand. What is infinite cannot be improved by applause. In this framework, worship as obligation dissolves, not because God is unworthy of reverence, but because reverence is unnecessary to sustain love. God is not diminished by our forgetfulness, nor enhanced by our devotion. Expectation implies lack. The word expect itself deserves scrutiny. Expectation implies time, anticipation, and absence. One expects that one does not what one does not yet have. One waits, one hopes, one looks forward. The Course places God outside of time entirely. God does not wait. God does not anticipate. God does not hope for a future outcome. God's will is not a plan unfolding across centuries. It is a fact of being. When the Course speaks of God's will, it is not describing a demand placed upon us. It is describing what is eternally true. God's will is not something we must obey. It's something we have forgotten. What the Course replaces worship with. Rather than worship, the Course emphasizes relationship, not hierarchy, but union, not submission, but recognition. In this view, the spiritual journey is not about honoring God through ritual. It is about remembering God through awareness. What replaces worship is not irreverence, but intimacy. Can you move it up more? Okay. The Course, back down a little bit. Sorry. The Course gently shifts familiar ideas. Worship becomes remembering. Obedience becomes willingness. Sacrifice becomes forgiveness. Fear becomes trust. Praise becomes gratitude as recognition. None of these are demanded. They arise naturally as fear is undone. God's request is not a demand. We all insist on asking what God asks of us. The Course offers an answer that feels almost disarming in its simplicity. God adds only what we ask, only what we accept, what has already been given. God's will is that we be happy, not eventually, not conditionally. Happiness in the Course is not pleasure or success. It is the natural state of mind at peace. It is what remains when guilt and fear are released. God does not demand good behavior, spiritual performance, or correct belief. God does not reward effort or punish failure. God's request, if it can even be called that, is awareness. Awareness of love, awareness of truth, awareness of what we already are. The role of forgiveness. Forgiveness plays a central role in this shift away from worship. Traditional religion often frames forgiveness as something granted by God after repentance. The Course reverses this. Forgiveness is something we offer in order to heal our own perception. Forgiveness in A Course in Miracles terms is not about excusing wrongdoing. It is about releasing the belief that attack is real, justified, or meaningful. It is the undoing of fear in the mind. Through forgiveness, we do not appease God. We remove the blocks to awareness that prevent us from recognizing God's presence. Forgiveness is not an offering to God. It is an acceptance of what God has never withdrawn. Prayer without petition. Prayer also undergoes a transformation in the Course. It is no longer a request for change, intervention, or favor. God does not need to be persuaded, informed, or reminded. Nothing has gone wrong in God's creation. True prayer, as the Course frames it, is alignment. It is the quiet willingness to see differently. It is the release of personal agendas and the acceptance of guidance already present. When prayer becomes listening rather than asking, it loses its transactional nature. It becomes a return to sanity rather than an appeal to authority. Gratitude without obligation. Gratitude often survives this transition, but it is transformed as well. Gratitude is no longer something we owe God. It is something that arises naturally when resistance fades. When fear loosens its grip, appreciation follows. Not because we're supposed to be grateful, but because gratitude is the mind's response to peace. It is recognition, not repayment. God does not need our thanks. Gratitude heals the one who offers it. A God who asks nothing. Perhaps the most unsettling idea the Course presents is this: God asks nothing because nothing is missing. There is no test to pass, no favor to earn, no cosmic approval score being tallied. The belief that we must prove our worthiness is itself the illusion, is itself the illusion being undone. The entire Course can be seen as an answer to a single mistaken belief that love must be earned. Worship in this light becomes one more attempt to bargain with perfection. Remembering instead of worshiping. What remains when worship falls away is not emptiness, but relief. The burden of pleasing God dissolves. The fear of disappointing God evaporates. In their place comes a quiet recognition. We were never separate, never unworthy, never outside of love. The Course does not invite us to worship God. It invites us to remember God. And in remembering God, we remember ourselves. God does not want devotion. God does not require praise. God does not expect obedience. God's will is simply that we know who we are. And when we do, everything that once looked like worship naturally becomes gratitude, trust, and peace, not for God's sake, for ours.
Thank you, Lynn.
Thank you, Robert.
Anybody want to, oh, hi, Matthew. Anybody want to comment on that? Thank you very much for reading that, Linda. The ones that you see on your screen right now that are in yellow were the ones that some of the people picked last week. So, Rafi, if any of those are one of the ones that you had picked,
Let us know.
Sorry. Well, if anybody else has one, we still have a lot of time. If nobody, yeah, Matthew, go ahead.
But one of the things that jumped out at me is intentions are important, because one of the teachers I had in the release technique always used to say, have an intention for everything. And you can sometimes use the word allow as a substitute for intention, but it's focusing. And so there's no arbitrary mental stuff coming in and taking over. And that sort of resonated with me. That's why I mentioned it.
Well, if you'd like to read it, we can look at it and see if it aligns with what you're saying. I think it does. So
Let's see what happens.
okay, great. I think that's a great idea.
Intentions are important.
Yeah.
Truly helpful or attack. Every thought, word, and action we offer to the world carries an intention behind it, spoken or unspoken, conscious or unconscious. While we often judge behavior by what it looks like, A Course in Miracles reminds us that only the intention determines its meaning. Wow, it's the same. The same words can heal or harm depending entirely on the state of mind from which they arise. What matters then is not what we do, but why we do it. The power of intention. Intention is the invisible motive beneath the surface. Two people can perform the same act, say offering advice, but the result will differ drastically if one's purpose is to be truly helpful and the other is to appear superior. Yeah. A sharp tone or a subtle feeling of judgment can make an act of help feel like an attack. The Course defines a truly helpful attitude in these familiar lines. I'm here only to be truly helpful. I'm here to represent Him who sent me. I do not have to worry about what to say or do or what to say or what to do, because He who sent me will direct me. I am content to be wherever He wishes, knowing He goes there with me. When we act with this mindset, we place our intention in alignment with love, not ego. The results, peace, gentleness, and healing follow naturally. Amen to that. The subtle forms of attack. An attack does not have to be loud, cruel, or physical. It can take the form of correction, helpful advice, sarcasm, or even silence used to punish. The Course tells us that every attack is a call for love. When we see attack as a plea rather than a provocation, we can respond differently. For example, imagine two co-workers. The first sees a college mistake and says, you really should know better. The intention is to assert superiority to make the other feel small. The result is defensiveness and resentment. The second sees the same mistakes and says, let's fix this together. I've made that error too. The intention is connection and shared learning. The result is understanding and cooperation. Day and night. Wow. The action addressing a mistake is the same, but one comes from fear and the other from love. Do you want to stop here or should we go on?
You want to read a little bit then?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I can go on. I just didn't know.
Okay, no, keep going. Yeah.
Okay. Hidden motive.
But before you go, is this aligning with what you were thinking?
In fact, in many ways, yes. It added some to it as well and embellished it somewhat. Hidden motives when helping hurts. Sometimes we believe we are being kind, but our real motive is self serving. That's why when somebody asks me for help, I never plan on what to say. I open up and let being to speak through me. We might help a friend to feel needed or to prove how generous we are. Yet when the ego hides beneath the mask of kindness, the help often drains rather than uplifts. Hello. Consider the parent who continually steps in to solve the adult child's problems. On the surface, the action seems loving, but if the deeper motive is control or fear of being unneeded, the help may actually hinder the child's growth. I experienced that with my son when he became an adult all the time. True help allows freedom. It trusts in the other's strength rather than reinforcing weakness. When love, not ego, guides intention, we lift both giver and receiver. Of course, there's no difference between giver and receiver. The mirror of relationship. Our relationships reveal our intentions more clearly than we'd like to admit. When we enter a conversation already defending our position, we are preparing for war, not peace, of course. Even a small disagreement over politics, family, or faith can become an attack if our goal is to win rather than understand. In contrast, when we enter a discussion with the quiet intention to listen, to see the light in the other person, sometimes something miraculous occurs. Tension softens and connection grows. The content of the conversation may not change, but the experience does. We exchange love instead of fear. The test of true helpfulness. How can we know whether our intention is truly helpful or an attack in disguise? The course offers a simple test. How does it? How do I feel? If we feel peaceful, open, and kind, even in disagreement, our attention is aligned with spirit. If we feel tight, self righteous, or anxious, we are acting from the ego's need to separate. For example, a teacher who disciplines his students may appear harsh, yet if the correction arises from love and genuine concern, the child feels safe and guided. But if the same words come from anger or impatience, the child feels shamed and fearful. Hello, nuns beating the hell out of us. Our energy always speaks louder than our words. Love communicates itself effortlessly. Fear must shout.
Hang on a second, Matthew. I want to. You said something just now I almost bust out laughing, and I want to embellish on it before you go further. When you mentioned about the nuns, I just went crazy because I'm going to tell a story right now that really has nothing to do with this, but it really talks about what you just said. When I was in the fifth grade, I was no more serious then than I am now. I was literally the class clown, and I was a pain in the ass. Well, one day I did something in class. Remember, fifth grade. How old am I? 10 maybe? I don't know. Sister Camilla dragged me out of class into the hallway, slammed the door behind us. The class is alone. Sister Camilla and I are out in the hallway of the school. Now, this school was built probably in the 20s, and if you know what paperboard is, that's what the walls were. They weren't plaster, they weren't sheetrock, but this paperboard. It was solid but soft. Well, she grabbed me by the ears and she started pounding me against that wall and put a hole in the wall the shape of my head. That hole was in the wall of that school until they tore it down. And I swear, Sister Camilla probably dragged her class into the hallway and said, "You see this hole?" and used it as a warning for others. But anyway, what made this story even funnier, or maybe even more honest, I don't know which, I went home whining, "Mommy, Mommy, Sister Camilla beat me up." Well, my mother said, "Why?" And I told her. And guess what? It happened again at home. So, you know, I can relate to what you said, and I'm sure you can relate to I said. So now if you want to go back to the essay.
Let me just relate an incident that I had, okay?
Yeah, go for it.
I was in about the fourth grade. I was grabbed by one of the nuns, the teacher in my, not the fourth grade, fifth grade, and pulled out into the hallway like you were. And she said, "Why were you talking in line?" I didn't know what she was talking. We had just come back from recess. And we're standing in line. What are we going to do? We're just standing in line. You're not supposed to talk a lot. Whack! I get smacked across the face. What were you talking about? I said, we were talking about the fun we were having. A whack! And I got hit again. And I had no idea what the hell it was all about. All I know was I was getting smacked in the face because a little while earlier we had been out on the playground standing in line waiting to go back into class. Now a year goes by and something happens in the class. I don't know what I said. Teacher said, "Come up here to the front of the room," the nun. She said to a couple of one of the girls, "Give me the ribbons out of your hair." She put girls' ribbons in my hair. She put a girl's jacket on me. And she had another girl, an older girl, a year ahead of me, take me through the school to different classrooms, me dressed now as a girl. Well, the thing is, when I got to the first classroom, I turned it into a comedy routine. And now I was getting all kinds of positive reactions from the students. They were laughing, and I did this, and I was doing stand-up comedy, and I was using the costume as a prop. The nuns hated that, but didn't know what to make of it. They had been foiled. Here this thing to punish me and embarrass me and make me look like an absolute fool turned me into the class star for that moment. So she told me to sit down and shut up. So I sat down and shut up. And then later on, everybody's coming over and patting me on the back. That was so funny. That was so great. So one moment, I'm getting the shit beat out of me. And the next moment, the thing that was meant to embarrass me and make me feel like garbage turned into a star turn for a moment. It's interesting how all of that happened. Their intentions were at the basis of all of that. That's what I was getting to. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely right, Rafi. And I am so glad to hear that I'm not the one that was the class clown in school. Uh, but thank you very much. I love it. Do you want to continue reading?
No, I'll read some more. When words fail, intentions speak. A gentle,
Sorry.
a gentle look, a soft tone, or a quiet presence can convey more healing than any lecture. When our intention is pure, others feel it, even if they don't understand it. Lester Levinson used to say, if no matter what you're feeling, the other person's going to know it, no matter what's going on, because we're all sending and receiving machines. There is a story of a nurse who sat beside a dying patient who was afraid. She said very little, simply held his hand and breathed quietly with him. Later, his family thanked her for saying exactly the right thing. She smiled, knowing she had said nothing at all. Her intention had done the work. Again, the power of intention. The ego's subtle trap. The ego loves to disguise attack as virtue. It will say, "I'm only being honest," when the words are meant to wound. Oh, someone has to tell the truth when the truth is used as a weapon. The Course reminds us that the ego always speaks first and its voice is never gentle. First and loudest. Yep. To undo this trap, we must pause before reacting. Ask silently, am I trying to be right or am I trying to be kind? That single moment of awareness opens the door for spirit to guide our response, the healing power of right attention. Every act of genuine kindness heals the split mind. Each time we choose to see innocence instead of guilt, we reverse the ego's law of attack and defense. Love extends naturally, it asks for nothing in return. There are pages of that in Dove's book. When our intention is to bless, we cannot be banned, harmed, and neither can anyone else. We begin to see that every encounter, friend or stranger, is an opportunity to either extend love or reinforce fear. The result always mirror the real choice. As the Course teaches, as you see him, you will see yourself. As you treat him, you will treat yourself. Amen. The beauty of intention is that it can always be changed. Even if we acted from fear for a moment ago, we can pause, breathe, and start again. No past mistake can block the present willingness to love. To choose a truly helpful intention is to align with our real purpose, to remember that we are all one in spirit. Amen. From that awareness, every word becomes a blessing, every touch a prayer, every thought a gentle echo of love returning to itself. Choosing reflection. The question, is this truly helpful or is this attack, becomes a compass for the awakened mind. It turns ordinary life into spiritual practice. In the end, the form doesn't matter. The smile, the silence, the correction, or the conversation. What matters is the inner posture from which it flows. Love gives without loss, fear attacks and calls it honesty. When our attention is love, the result is always healing for both giver and receiving. Well, of course. Every moment then becomes a holy instant where the only purpose is to be truly helpful, and in that purpose we find peace. To comment
Thank you,
on,
Matthew.
okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for picking that. It just seems really perfect for today, especially because of the interaction it generated, which is for me it's very exciting because it's nice to know it's not just what I'm thinking, but it's what we're all going through, and I appreciate that. I got a couple of seconds here, and I want to just mention something. And I normally do not put plugs in these sessions, but I'm working on a book right now that has to do with relationships. And what I'm going to do is I'll I'll find a way of getting it to Lynn to give you an idea of the outline and what the book is going to be about. Maybe she can just forward it in an email. I don't have time to put it in the chat, but there's one thing that I've learned both from listening to the course and from my own experience, and that is that relationships are one of the biggest tools that the course has on teaching the universal curriculum. And that's what the book is all about. So anyway, as I say, I don't normally plug stuff here, but I just feel that that's important. And if anybody has anything else they want to share, I'd be happy, Lynn or Rafi or Cherie. And other than that, I'm pretty much done. Cherie, you want to say anything?
Just an observation, and I have been married 3 times. And it's interesting that all 3 men from different parts of the world were raised at one point or another by Catholic nuns. And all of them share the same stories. And Rafi, you just join in with one more. It's just amazing to me to hear the same issues over and over again. And if anything, I have to believe that having gone through that as a child, that then drives people with much more interest into a program like A Course in Miracles.
Thank you. And with that, Lynn, I'm going to turn it over back to you to either close or comment as you so choose.
All right. Thank you guys so much. I do appreciate your essays and appreciate the people step up to read. It is such a good thing. So thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and close you all out, and we will see you again tomorrow evening, Tuesday evening at 7 p.m. for more of your essays with Sharon. So